Naked mole rat. Just picture a tiny sausage with oversized front teeth, no hair, and a wrinkled face and skin. Then you can just begin to understand how ugly and weird these guys are. They literally have a face only their mom could love, and their skin is so thin and pale that you can practically see their organs if you squint hard enough. And as if that's not bad enough, they live their entire lives underground in complete and utter darkness, burrowing through the dirt and searching for roots and tubers to eat, which sounds fancy until you realize it's just underground plant parts. They even eat their own poop to digest their food twice and extract every last bit of nutrients. Now, that's just disgusting. But they make it work, so no judgment. The worst part is that they have a complete and utter monarchy system where only one female gets to be the queen, and she's about as benevolent as Cersei Lannister on a bad hair day. If you're not the queen, congratulations. You've just won a limited supply of manual labor and celibacy. There is absolutely nothing like personal space because you would be crammed into tight tunnels with up to 300 of your closest relatives forever. To add salt to the wound, these guys live for up to 30 years, which is practically ancient for a rodent. And you can't even complain about your miserable existence because naked mole rats don't feel pain in their skin. Factory farmed chickens. If you were born a chicken, life would have been a lot sadder, more difficult, and more hectic for you. This is because you would be born into the world as a fluffy little chick who's actually quite cute, but your entire childhood would be spent in an overcrowded brooder. Now, as you grow, you'll come to realize that life is nothing to crow about because your entire adult life would be spent locked in a cage so small it makes a New York studio apartment look spacious. Your daily routine would be a boring cycle of eating bland chicken feed, the irony of eating something that's literally made from your flesh, laying eggs, and sleeping. It's the circle of life in The Lion King, but without the majestic soundtrack or the chance to be king. The worst part is that you are only being kept alive so you can pop out eggs. You're expected to lay at least one perfect-looking egg every day for the rest of your life, and there is nothing like a sick day. In the hen's world, if you're not laying the food, well, then you'll become the food. And let's not forget about the fact that you are sweet food for a ton of predators, from foxes to hawks, and even your neighbor's cat. Everyone wants a piece of you. It's like living in an episode of Survivor, but the stakes are a lot higher. But hey, it's not all bad, because you're literally one of the last descendants of dinosaurs, if that even counts. Dolphins. Now, if you've ever been to any marine life show, you've definitely seen that dolphins are always part of the act. This is because they are playful, intelligent, and super smiley marine mammals, so everyone loves them. They're basically the rock stars of the ocean, and humans are their adoring fans. However, what if behind those permanent grins, life is actually a pretty sad and depressing one for the dolphins? It's like finding out your favorite celebrity actually hates their own movies. It's like this. Imagine if someone forcefully dragged you out of your very spacious home and locked you in a tiny room but nothing but a treadmill and a mirror. Pretty messed up, right? Well, for dolphins in captivity, that's kind of what life is like, because instead of roaming the vast ocean, they're stuck in tanks that are way too small for them. It's like trading a mansion for a shoebox apartment. It's actually very sad because dolphins are very intelligent and social animals who are used to swimming up to 100 miles a day in the wild, hanging out with their dolphin buddies and hunting for food. However, in captivity, they can't do any of that. Instead, they're trained to jump and do all sorts of stunts so that humans can come watch and be entertained. And the funniest part of it is that those cute tricks you pay to watch are often the results of stress and boredom. It's like if you were so bored you started juggling your food just to pass the time, except people are paying to watch you do it. Greenland shark. You would hear the word shark and probably think, well, this one's life can't be all that depressing, right? Well, wrong, because watching paint dry is even more entertaining than the life of a Greenland shark. The first sad reality of these sharks is they spend most of their lives in the deep cold waters of the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. Now, living in constant cold can take its toll on anybody, but these guys can live up to 500 years. So just imagine how bone-chilling their entire existence is. The Greenland shark is basically the sloth of the sea because it cruises through the ocean at a blistering speed of about 0.76 miles per hour. That's slower than your grandma on her morning walk, and it's not because they're lazy, it's just because of how they're built. As if moving at a snail's pace wasn't enough, the Greenland shark has another challenge. It's practically blind. This is because many of them have a parasite that latches onto their eyes, making them blind. Talk about adding salt to the wound. You've already got a slow-moving ancient shark, and now it can't even see where it's going. Their diet is also nothing to speak about because they're not even fast enough to hunt for food, so they basically eat anything too slow to get away, like plankton or injured sea animals. Kiwi bird. Let's start with the most obvious thing about the kiwi. The bird can't fly, not even a little hop or glide. Nope, the kiwi is stuck on the ground, waddling around like a bird that lost its instruction manual. The kiwi's wings are so small they're practically invisible, hidden under its fuzzy feathers. They're the bird equivalent of those tiny pockets in jeans. Useless, but there for some reason. Plus, the bird practically looks like what you'd get if you superglued a pair of toothpicks to a potato and then attached a very long and large cone to the head. Their nostrils are at the tip of their beaks, which means the bird is constantly sniffing the ground. Imagine going through life perpetually smelling your own feet. Not only that, these birds lay eggs that are up to 20% of their body weight. In human terms, that's like giving birth to a 6-year-old. They're carrying this giant egg for about a month and do this multiple times a year. It's like carrying around a watermelon in your belly for weeks every 3 months. And let's not forget you're basically a walking, or rather waddling, buffet for anything with teeth and speed. Two things you decidedly lack. At least there's a silver lining to this sad life, because the bird is surprisingly the national symbol of New Zealand, and people named a fruit after you. Not many birds can boast of that. Cows. Dairy industry. Picture this. You're a cow, just minding your own business when suddenly your entire life becomes about producing milk. And not just a little bit, a lot. Dairy cows are bred and kept solely for their milk, and they have to produce it in huge quantities. It's like being the star of a one-cow milk factory and there's no vacation. Now, the worst part is that to keep producing milk, dairy cows are kept in a cycle of pregnancy and birth. So basically, your entire life is just a cycle of get pregnant, give birth, produce milk that wouldn't be given to your child, and then rinse and repeat. Their calves are even usually taken away shortly after birth, which is stressful for both the cow and her calf. Imagine if every time you had a baby, it was taken away so someone else could benefit from it. It's heartbreaking and unnatural. And that's not the end of it, too. If you, the cow, should maybe stop producing milk because of old age or something, you'll be sent to a feedlot so you can be fattened up as quickly as possible. And once you are fat enough, you'll be killed and sold as beef. Unfortunately for these cows, life isn't just a stake of bad luck. Now, remember those calves that are snatched from their mothers in the dairy industry? Many of them are sent to veal farms, where they're kept in small crates and fed a special diet to keep their meat tender. It's like being sent to a boarding school, where the only goal is to fatten you up. A possum. Aside from the fact that these guys looked like oversized rats with their hairless tails and beady eyes, one of the saddest and most well-known facts about opossums is their unfortunate tendency to end up as roadkill. They're nocturnal, meaning they're most active at night, just when humans drive home from late-night trips. Combine that with their slow, waddling walk and tendency to freeze in place when scared, and you have the perfect recipe for disaster on the roads. Opossums are also famous for their dramatic defense mechanism, playing dead, also known as playing possum. When threatened, an opossum might go into an involuntary state of shock, lying still with its tongue hanging out and even emitting a foul odor to mimic the scent of death. While this can fool predators into thinking the opossum is already dead and therefore not worth eating, it's like fainting at the first sign of trouble and hoping your problems go away by the time you wake up. And the worst part? Opossums don't choose to play dead. It just happens, like an awkward reflex. They wake up confused, disoriented, and probably a little embarrassed. Their lifespan is also incredibly short, usually only about 2 to 4 years in the wild, so they have to find food, avoid predators, and raise offspring in just a few short years, and at the same time, try not to get killed by a car. Pangolins. These quirky little creatures look like a cross between an armadillo, a pine cone, and your grandma's favorite handbag. And while they have some of the most unique features in the animal kingdom, they can live their entire lives in hiding and fear. First off, pangolins are kind of the introverts of the animal world. They're solitary, shy, and nocturnal, which means they're basically the creatures who would rather binge watch Netflix in their burrows than attend a party. However, their lives are quite sad though, because they hold the unfortunate title of being the most trafficked mammal in the world. And no, that's not a good thing. It's like winning the world's worst lottery. They're hunted for their scales, which some people believe have magical healing properties, even though they're just made of the same stuff as your toenails. Like, if keratin really had superpowers, you'd all be chomping on your nails every time you had a cold, right? Their meat is also considered a delicacy in some cultures like China, Vietnam, and parts of Southeast Asia, which is just adding insult to injury. Imagine if someone decided you were delicious and your toenails were worth their weight in gold. Not exactly a recipe for a happy life. As if being hunted wasn't bad enough, pangolins are also losing their homes thanks to deforestation. Humans are chopping down trees faster than a toddler can destroy a Lego tower, leaving these little critters without a place to live. For a creature that's already shy and reclusive, losing their forest hideouts is like losing their Wi-Fi signal during a crucial moment in a movie. They're lost, vulnerable, and more than a little panicked. Dung beetles. If you thought your job was crappy, just spare a moment for the dung beetle, because these guys spend their freaking entire life collecting the poop of every other animal and rolling it up into neat little balls. Of everything else they could be collecting, nature gave this guy shit, literally. And it doesn't end here. They actually eat these rolled up poops. It's a place to lay eggs and sometimes even engage in a form of beetle real estate. Well, another man's poison is definitely another man's food, and it's kind of a necessary job if you really think about it. Every ecosystem needs a sanitation worker at the end of the day, and the dung beetles have gloriously carved a niche for themselves. However, life as a dung beetle isn't all rolling and relaxation. There's competition too. When a fresh pile of dung hits the ground, it's like the grand opening of a new restaurant and the beetles come running. There's often a scramble to grab the best bits, and beetles can get pretty competitive about it. Some species even engage in head-to-head battles using their horns to push and shove each other out of the way. It's like Black Friday shopping, but with a lot more poop, and the best fighters get to go home with the best poop. Rhinos. Just imagine being hunted for your head because a bunch of people suddenly woke up one morning and decided that they could heal diseases. That would be pretty uncomfortable and seriously messed up, right? Well, sadly, this is what more than 80% of rhinos go through every single day. Although they are built like armored vehicles, have horns that look like they could take down a wall, and they mostly want to be left alone to munch on grass and take mud baths. However, some humans have made it their life's mission to turn their simple lives into a nightmare. You see, some people believe that the rhino's horns have magical properties, like curing illness or enhancing your personal performance, if you get my meaning. Well, they actually don't, because rhino horns are literally made of keratin, the same stuff as your hair and nails. So unless you think gnawing on your fingernails will make you a superhero or improve your performance in the other room, it's safe to say the horn isn't doing much besides being tragically valuable on the black market. The poaching is so rampant that some rhino species are now critically endangered. It's like being hunted for your hair gel. Ridiculous, right? But deadly serious for these big guys. If you want to find out more about how depressing or exciting the lives of every other animal are, then you should join our Discord server today for all the updates. Parrots. You probably didn't expect to see this particular bird on the list because of how bright, colorful, and talkative they are, but unfortunately, their lives can become pretty depressing and sad. Just imagine what it's like getting kidnapped from your beautiful home full of flowers and friends, transported, and then sold illegally to the highest bidder so that they can lock you up in a tiny cage for people to come and admire. It's like being a celebrity and suddenly finding yourself locked in a tiny room with no one to talk to. The thing is, wild parrots are extremely social creatures that live in flocks, fly really long distances, and have complex social interaction. Now, when they are captured and sold as pets, they are literally locked in solitary confinement, isolated from other parrots, and deprived of the mental stimulation they need to function properly, which in turn leads to loneliness and boredom. Parrots can become so lonely and stressed that they develop self-destructive behaviors like plucking out their own feathers. It's like being so bored you start pulling your hair out, literally. They can also develop anxiety and depression, leading to a shortened lifespan. Mayflies. Just imagine if you literally spend your entire life in the womb, and then when you finally emerge to explore the world, you frickin' drop dead after just 24 hours. That sounds like a miserable existence, but it is the unfortunate reality of the mayfly. These unfortunate insects are the epitome of here today, gone tomorrow, because they spend their entire life, which is like a year underwater, munching on algae and organic debris. And when it's finally time to become an adult, mayflies emerge from the water in a dramatic transformation. They shed their nymphal skin and take to the air as fully formed adults. This is their big moment. Their graduation day, wedding day, and reproduction day are all rolled rolled into one. That's because they literally have anywhere from 30 minutes to 24 hours to live. And the craziest thing is that they spend every minute of this limited time mating. Mayflies have taken the concept of cutting to the chase to a whole new level because they don't bother with any of the usual distractions. No eating, no resting, no worrying about the future, just pure, unadulterated focus on the task at hand: reproduction. It's like the insect version of speed dating, but with a lot more urgency. And once they've completed their life's mission, they simply drop out of the sky. It's the ultimate mic drop.